Call, let's see. I'm going to call the June 16th White Bear Lake Conservation District Board meeting to order. We have an agenda. We have a quorum. So we're on to item 3 of the agenda, and that is approval of agenda. And does anybody have anything that they'd like to add to the agenda?
Brian, I'd like to talk about the email I received from a Birchwood resident.
Okay, well, let's put that under new business. Is that okay with you?
That's great.
Okay. So I'm just going to call that Birchwood doc item, Susie.
That's great. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
From the top, Brian,
Aye.
Mr. Gans,
Aye.
Mr. Costello,
Aye.
Ms. Mahoney.
Aye.
I've got Mike with the 204-822. I told him how to turn his audio back on. I don't know if he did.
I did.
Mike, do you vote aye?
I vote aye.
All right, and I've got Diane.
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, I think that's all the voting members that are part of the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So that item passes. So we have an agenda. Next item is approval of the May 2020 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes that they would like to make to those meeting minutes? Okay, there's just one little spelling item, Kim, under item 5, AUDA instead of ADUA.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a
thank you. Okay,
minor thing.
all right.
Okay, so hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the May meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you please call the vote?
Yeah, from my top, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Mr. Gans,
Aye.
Ms. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. Pronto,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Costello,
Aye.
and finally, Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, all ayes, you have approved minutes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alan. So next item on the agenda is public comment time. We allow 15 minutes for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody on the Zoom meeting that has anything they'd like to talk with us about during this public comment time?
And Mr. Chair, most of the guests are self-muted and there's no one waiting to participate that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I'm going to assume or take that as an indication that there's nobody out there. So we're on to new business. And so the item that was added to the agenda under new business is a, Susie, is it okay if I just set it up and then turn it over to you?
That's great.
Okay, so basically received an email from a concerned citizen regarding Birchwood's public dock and the way it's put in. And there you go, Susie, how's that?
Yeah, I don't think it was so much as the way it was put in, but there were a couple concerns as well. I guess the length is one concern, and its instability at the end of the dock, and the dock being as long as it is, although all of the permits have not been filled, which makes it not necessary to be that long. And also, and Kim might remember this, but I don't. It says there are 2 benches or platforms on Delwood Beach, and only one was approved. Do you remember, Kim, what that was?
No, and I don't know. What is Delwood Beach?
It's part of Birchwood's beaches.
Oh,
We
it's
have
one
5.
of theirs. They have the
Yeah.
5 different.
We have 5 public
Yeah,
accesses.
and I don't recall anything about a bench ever. And would we don't do anything with that anyway.
That's terrestrial. I believe there's a bench there, but it's not part of a permitting process.
Yeah, I didn't.
I think it's on the
recall.
dock itself. Is that considered terrestrial?
Even if it's on a dock, there's nothing that's wrong with putting a bench on there, I don't think.
Yeah, we
But
don't permit those.
this particular resident seems to think one was approved, but there are two. So we must have approved the number of benches, but they seem to have more than they're supposed to.
We pretty much approve the dock layout.
Yeah.
What you want to put on your dock, you can put on your dock.
We don't permit benches separately
No.
or differently or anything. No, we just go with the boats.
Just what's in
Yeah.
the water.
Okay,
And Susie, it may be that, the drawing that they provided to us showed a bench on the dock, only one, and this person sees two now, and that might be causing some concern.
okay. So I guess we need to take into those things into consideration for the next permitting season for Birchwood and Delwood Beach in particular. And I guess they want to increase the length of the boats. And it's only a 47-foot access. So this person is also concerned about the fact that there would not be enough room for longer boats.
Okay, so thank you for that. So
Yep.
I think the takeaway here is, Kim, if you could note, and I think I copied you on the email I sent, if you could note that when this permit comes up for renewal, that we should contact this citizen and just let them know that the permit's up for renewal in case they would like to come and speak to the LUC. Or,
Yeah, all right.
okay. Is that good for you, Susie?
That's great. Yeah. I had read your email regarding that. I just wanted to make sure that it was brought up at this meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, good, Diane?
Has she gone to the village of Birchwood, to their city council and talked to them about it? Because they okay the beaches before they come to us. in
That's true. They
Birchwood.
do. I
Yeah,
don't know if she has. She didn't mention that in her email.
okay. So maybe she should be directed there also.
Okay.
Because they do permit first before they come to the conservation district.
And I suppose that should be done before our permits, our applications, again, going to be due, what was it, October
Or
Yeah,
15.
October,
15th?
yes.
Okay. So perhaps we need to let her know that too. That
Plus,
she,
if she felt the dock was unstable, that would be the city's responsibility as well.
okay. Okay.
So Susie, do you want us to leave that with you, or would you like us to have Kim contact her with that information, or how would you like to proceed in this one?
I can certainly just get a hold of her myself. That would be fine.
Okay, thanks, Susie. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. There is nothing, no unfinished business. So we're on to item 8, reports, and action items. The first one is the executive committee, and that's me, and the executive committee did not meet. And so there is no report. So the next item is Lake Quality Committee, and that's Mike.
Okay, lake quality. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, lake level today is 925.03. And with the winds and the hot weather, it might go down a fraction. The lake temperature is 69 degrees. Last year it was 70 degrees on this day. And again, with the warm temperatures this week, that temperature will go up. So, but it's staying in line with where it's always been, so there's nothing out of whack. The next thing is a grant for Phragmites. Last Monday, I got an email from Minoka, and they said they were doing they were applying for a Phragmites grant to treat non-native Phragmites, and that we had treated some and needed a follow-up treatment. And did we want to get in on the grant? The grant is provided by the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And of course I said yes. And she said, well, you have to have everything in, this is Monday, you have to have everything in by Thursday before we decide on who's going to get the grant and what it'll be. So I jumped on it right away and called Lake Management, And fortunately, the DNR, Julia Bowen at the DNR had already surveyed all these sites that we had treated last year. And I don't think there were any new ones. If there were, she added them to the list. There were 6 sites total. So I contacted Lake Management right away, and they said, yeah, they could give us a bid to treat, no problem. Might take them a couple of days. And I said, well, we got to have it by Thursday. So they did it, and they got me the bid, and the bid came in at $1,483. And so I submitted it with all the other information that they wanted for the grant to Anoka County on Thursday. Actually, Wednesday night is when I did it, because Lake Management got it to me late Wednesday, and I just did it right into the night and got it done. Friday morning, we got approval for the grant, and we will receive it. Now, last year, Ramsey County paid for it, so I contacted Ramsey County because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes once I knew I had the grant. And they were well aware of it. In fact, they were using some of that money also for their projects in Ramsey County. They were very happy. The person I talked to was Justin Townsend, and they were very happy that we got the grant and that they would help us follow it through treatment and make sure the payment and everything was taken care of properly. So a lot of work that I would normally do in the fall is already done and paid for.
Great.
So we're
Nice.
pretty lucky on that one.
Thank you for doing that, Mike.
Any questions about Phragmites? No, I didn't think there would be.
Hey, Mike, can I just ask a couple of things? One is, can we make sure that we have something on our website, or Kim, can you make sure that it's that we notify people when we're planning to do that treatment
Sure.
in some way?
Yep.
And then I'll just reiterate, thank you for your efforts there, Mike.
Okay, yeah, the treatment won't be till September, early October, which is when it was last year, was October 4th, I think it was. Okay, the next thing, yellowtail iris. We had some people walking along Lake Avenue in front of the Phil Brown house and identified what they thought was yellowtail iris, which on land, it's sold by nurseries. You can buy it at nurseries and everything. On land, it's a very pretty plant. It has a very strong root system and is tough. But in the water, it's an invasive. It'll crowd out bulrushes. It'll crowd out anything in the water, and it doesn't offer any advantage to the wildlife. So I had Steve McComas identify it to make sure that we weren't treating somebody's flower bed. And he said, no, that's yellowtail iris, and that's something that you can treat and should be treated. It's slow growing, but it grows by the root system, so you have to have a really good treatment. So thought about it and got to talk to Lake Management again, and they said, yeah, they knew what it was. They treat it. They'd be glad to treat it. Come on and treat it. But I didn't really know how much of it there was. So I went over and did just an on-site inspection, and it's mostly in front of the Phil Brown house, which belongs to the Historical Society. And then the 2 houses north of it have just sporadic plants here and there, nothing really big. So I talked to one of the homeowners, and that was Carter Johnson with the White Bear Press, and mentioned that, maybe we should put some information in the press, maybe buy an ad, and explain what yellowtail iris is, and might as well throw in Phragmites, because I think in the future, I think, for Phragmites and yellowtail iris would be shoreline management by homeowners, rather than us having to treat, because it's in their EDUA. And once we figure out, treat the initial infestations and see what works on them, and then turn it over to homeowners. I mentioned to Scott Costello in an email today, and I think he was positive about it, that we put together an information piece about both items, and then circulate it to homeowners and put it in the White Bear Press also. Timing is unknown yet at this time. We have to put the materials together. So for the first treatment, I would suggest that we pay for it. Maybe we can eradicate it and it's done with. And then put the information out, and anybody who thinks they want to plant it on their shoreline, or sees they happen to have a big yellow flower on their shoreline, that they could easily dig it up and just get rid of it. So to do that, I would like to make a motion And first I'll explain it. I was thinking of using leftover money from the milfoil treatment to pay for the treatment of the yellowtail iris. And if that wasn't, if there wasn't enough money left over, then we would take the balance from the general fund. Now I've been out scouting Eurasian water milfoil, and we had early ice on last year, very early, December 2nd, I think it was. And then it snowed, so it covered it, so that the milfoil dropped right away and just didn't get a start until the ice came off to grow back. So what I've seen is about 4 feet below the surface. And by the time we survey and get it treated, it'll be closer to the surface, and it'll be a good treatment. But I don't see as much of it, so we might not have as many acres to treat. I won't know that till next week after the survey. So here's my motion. After all that talking, motion is to spend up to $1,000 to treat yellowtail iris through lake management, and use money left over from Eurasian water milfoil treatment. And if that isn't enough, then we take the balance from the general fund.
Second.
A second.
Thank you.
From the grant money, wouldn't you have extra money from the Phragmites treatment as well?
The grant money is only for the bid to treat Phragmites, and the grant money was only for non-native Phragmites.
Okay.
So that is it takes care of itself, but it can't be used for anything else.
No, but I mean, did you have more money in the budget for extra for Phragmites, so which now you'd have extra money to use it for something else?
For 2021, I do,
Oh, okay,
but not for 2020.
okay.
We'd been taking it out of the Eurasian Water Milfoil Fund, and you had made notations on that. We'd used it for Phragmites.
Correct. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Mark seconded it, so I guess we can call for the vote.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I just lost that second. Okay, so motion and a second to treat the yellowtail iris. Any discussion?
Mike, is this a native type of plant?
Well, like I say, it's sold in nurseries. People put it in their gardens. Its origin is from Europe. Like all our problems, they seem to come from Europe or Asia. And it's used, like in London, they have canals with the canal boats in that. It's a very strong root system, and they use it along the banks to hold the banks so that the waves don't erode it away. And it
Oh,
just blocks out everything, and it's just like muscly root system that holds the banks. And it's used around here, I guess, also to hold banks on if somebody has a garden and they wanted something to hold the bank, they use this. But when it gets in the water and keeps growing, even though it doesn't grow exponentially, but it grows, it blocks out everything. And what we want are water-type plants in the water and land-type plants on land.
okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Cam,
Aye.
Scott C,
Aye.
and Scott O.
Aye.
Motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mike, before you,
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted just to ask Alan, this grant, does the board need to vote to accept that grant?
Don't necessarily think so. If you want to be belt and suspenders, you can certainly pass a quick resolution or motion of support for using the grant that you've been awarded.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make the motion that we accept this Phragmites treatment grant.
Okay, we haven't got it yet. We won't get it till the treatment is done and we submit the bill to Anoka County.
Okay, so maybe I'm premature.
Yeah, because if
okay.
the Minnesota Department of Agriculture has a horrific summer and doesn't want to pay grants, then we pay for it.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so I'll withdraw that motion. Okay, anything else, Mike?
Okay, well, there is. On Monday, we've scheduled to do the Eurasian Water Milfoil Survey with Steve McComas. And if the weather is bad, we'll do it Tuesday, the 23rd. Then following that, Lake Management will be ready to treat. And when I know when they're going to treat, I'll let Kim know and we can get it on the website, like we did last year as a notification for people. So that's that. Oh, now I got one more thing. If you got the time, I got the stuff. I got a call from the township, and they said, we're working on a project on Bald Eagle Lake, and we're talking about raising the outflow on White Bear Lake. And you, how would you, Mike, what level would you like us to put it at? And I said, oh, I'll put it as high as you want. But no, that's not true. He wasn't sure who was in charge of managing the outflow. And I remember the meeting, and I emailed Alan, and he responded immediately with the person's name, Justin from the
Jason.
DNR, and I've got his email and address.
That's
And-
Jason, Mike.
Yes? Oh, okay. And so I will go back to the township and tell them that, and certainly try to convince the township and the project. It's Rice Creek Watershed is doing it along with Ramsey County and Anoka County. And that if there's a chance to raise that outflow a little bit, that it would be to benefit of both lakes. As an individual, I can pursue it, but I can't pursue it as a board unless somebody wants to make a position statement.
Mike, are they talking about raising the weir level on the outlet from White Bear Lake there along 96 or
Yes,
something?
that's what they would like to do. And they didn't know who was in charge of it. They thought maybe Rice Creek was in charge of it, but I said, well, to my knowledge, it's a DNR because it's a state lake and they're the ones that said it the last time. And as you recall, that we had almost 2 years ago that Alan had to make the DNR talk about what they were doing with lake level stuff. That the topic came up about the weir and the outflow and the level, and Jason got up and explained why it's where it is and why he didn't want to raise it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we had a whole discussion on that a couple of years ago, right?
Well, now it's come up again, and maybe there's a chance to raise it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, over where I am in Snyder Bay, I mean, the lake levels are quite high. And I don't know if you'd want to do anything to make them higher at this
I
time.
wouldn't go higher. No, we're 925 something right now, but the ordinary high water mark is 924.89.
Right. I mean, isn't that weir height real close to that, or a little bit less, not much?
It's less than the ordinary high water mark. It's 924.3, and I think the DNR might even have lowered it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know.
I mean, we've already talked about, I remember we got some information from the city engineer. Paul Copy is pretty up on this stuff too, so.
Yeah. So we're basically a foot over the overflow right now. So the lake, if it's left where it is, which, who knows, the lake would come down a foot before it stopped going out the overflow. So, a few inches here and there means a lot. So we'll see what they, unless you want to take a position statement or just leave it up to the DNR again.
It seems like we need to find out a little more information, Mike. Let them develop the idea a little better before we can take a position.
Yeah, well, part of the project for Bald Eagle, they wanted to dig the ditch deeper going from White Bear to Bald Eagle so it would run faster. but then they didn't want as much water as they're getting. They wanted to, cut off at a higher level. And then they were going to dig the ditch deeper in that weedy area between White Bear and Bald Eagle along Highway 61. If you know where I mean, it's called Ditch 11. If you know where those ditches are, I'm sure that you don't, because who knows? who would want to know that? But there's all those weeds and cattails that are along Highway 61 before you get to Buffalo on the east side of the road. That's where the overflow flows into. It flows into that big swampy area, and then it goes under the highway and goes to Bald Eagle.
Oh.
And that was always like a filtration, like the overflow water would go into that area. It kind of filters around. It's mucky, wet, and then it, kind of cleans it up a little bit, and then it goes to Bald Eagle.
So
And-
Mike, what's the timing on this? Can we get a month to chew on it? Because it's the first time I've heard of this.
They're thinking, the fellow from the township thought that the whole project could end up to be $1 million, but they started the project by getting a grant that we did not get from the DNR. We applied for urine water milfoil treatment, and so did they, and they did get a grant, we didn't. But the grant was applied for Bald Eagle by Rice Creek Watershed. So next time we should ask Rice Creek Watershed to apply for our grant and see how we do. So it's just in the beginning stages. Now, these are things that the guy from the township, George Fredericks, was telling me are in the planning stages by the engineers who've drawn up preliminary plans for this to be done. They've been trying to clean up Bald Eagle for a while. And this is a continuation of that.
Okay, so we have some time. We don't have to settle anything tonight.
Yeah, we
correct?
have time. We have time. But they're in the planning stages, and that's always a good time to, be heard.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to see more information about it.
Yeah. I'll ask him if he can maybe copy us on stuff. I'm sure they have emails going around.
Yep.
Just put us in the loop, because they want our water, and they anyhow, digging a deeper ditch to drain that swamp more, I thought was a bad idea. It's kind of a natural swamp. It's a natural wetland. I think there's rules about that they should run into, but he thought that they were going to, try to drain that down a little bit so that when water overflowed to White Bear, it wouldn't just run right to Bald Eagle. But I kind of like to leave Mother Nature alone. Anyhow, that's that. And on a side note, there's a lady that lives by the yacht club, Mrs. Johnson, from the Johnson & Johnson family, who's been buying up part of that wetland and signifying it, dedicating it as a bird sanctuary. So,
And how would that digging the ditch deeper affect that, or would it?
it would drain the swamp.
So the birds wouldn't have as much water.
Yeah, water would go to the lowest point and run out. And the ditch, it would be the ditch going to Bald Eagle.
And we wouldn't have any way of regulating that in a time when we would have a dry time, would we? Or at what
I don't
point
know. I don't know how far our jurisdiction goes.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, the dry is not going to help you. When the lake goes low, it's not going to spill out anyway. So
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, the only issue with us would be, do we want to try to gain a couple inches on the runoff to stop the runoff at a couple inches higher? I'll get more information.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Anything else, Mike, or
No.
questions for Mike? Okay,
If there's no questions, I'm done.
okay, thanks, Mike. So next item, Lake Utilization Committee, Mark?
Yeah, so the first on the agenda is Food Ski. So it's a business where they will go into Commercial Bay, pick up from Miso Aqua, any of the other restaurants in the area, and they will bring it out to your boat via jet ski. I think it's a really, it's a 1-year application. So I think it's a great thing. especially during times right now where it's tough to find a job, especially if you're a college student or anything like that. So I think it's really entrepreneurial. I think it's a good deal. They understand all the rules. They know when they have to have their jet skis off the lake. And they're going to talk to people about making sure that they don't litter, that napkins aren't blowing into the water and things like that. So the LUC approved, and I so move.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mark, I'm sure you're aware of the ordinance we have on selling on the lake.
They're not selling.
No, I realize that, but there's a lot of parts of that that are like clean up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's why we brought up, I mean, actually Luke brought it up that he's like, hey, you know, just to make sure we don't want any more litter in the lake. There's nothing to stop these people from pulling up to tallies and picking their own stuff up.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So it's just a new business. It's an opportunity. It's a service. It's a 1-year application, and we really didn't see any problems with it.
Does this service take food to homeowners on the lake as well, or just to boats?
That's a good question. I think Graham and Dylan are on. I
Yes.
welcome them to answer.
We're on.
Yep, this is Dylan. Yeah, we do. We deliver to dockside as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions on this amongst the board members?
Nope.
Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
I will, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Cam.
Aye.
Scott C.
Aye.
Scott O.
Aye.
All ayes, Mr. Chair. Passes.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, Dylan and Graham.
Thank you.
They
Thanks, guys.
so the next one is the variance to our ordinances to use others' ADUAs to move their boats in and out. It's Bel Air Beach. They have 20 feet. They own 20 feet. It's not an easement on someone's property. They own 20 feet. So and we went round and round, and we have been for a while. And my personal opinion, and I was the only one who could vote. Marty was having technical difficulties, and just for transparency, Luke Michaud is one of the property owners to one side, and you see on there Ken Wagner is one of the property owner to the other side. And with 20 feet, they wanted to put in 4 boats and couldn't figure out how you can get 4 boats in and out of a 20-foot spot without going into anybody else's ADUA. And after doing this for however many years I've been doing this, I just don't see that we want to set a precedent to start allowing property owners to use other property owners' ADUA to navigate their boats in and out of their dock. I think that you're just going to open Pandora's box if that happens. I think if they can get boats in there within their ADUA, the other caveat to this is that since this has happened, the other 2 property owners have moved their docks over with, excuse me, equipment within. And as was stated in our meeting, we don't technically have a 5-foot setback. What we have is you have to have 10 feet between structures. So when we get into these disputes on ADUAs, we usually say, well, then you can't be within 5 feet and they can't be within 5 feet. And that'll guarantee us 10 feet, which essentially, if the adjacent property owners want to use their 5-foot setback, I've been out there, it looks like they're more like a 6-foot setback, then, you know, that's what they, you know, are allowed to do. So essentially what it gives you is 10 feet to get watercraft in and out. That's how I read the ordinances. I don't necessarily see a hardship, as you can always put your boat on the lake. You can always use the dock. You can pull your boat up to the dock, pick people up, drop people off. But I just don't want to set a precedent that allows people to use other people's ADUAs to get in and out of their ADUA.
That precedent,
so-
Mark, has already been set.
What's that?
that precedent has already been set,
What precedent?
that people use others' ADUA to get out with their boats.
Not without the neighbor's compliance.
My property, I was told I couldn't put my dock over any closer than 20 feet. And my neighbors who have 36 and a half feet to get their boat out, go through my ADUA every single time. It's been that way since you guys set that up. Because you made me put my dock over 20 feet.
There's a difference between this and that, and it's that you guys have converging property lines. And I was at Matamidi all week today, off Locust Street, and there's 3 people with converging property lines, and you can't do it, right? So, I mean, if you do that, your docks are all going to be going like this. So we had to, unfortunately, we went through all this. We settled yours as a separate thing, and it's working there in the middle of their property, and nobody's getting crowded out. Everybody has access to the lake.
Well, I would beg to differ with you there, but our dock is almost to the other side of our property now.
Well, that's good. So there's plenty of room.
No, because we couldn't get a boat around that end of the dock, a motorboat at least. We can a kayak, but you know, since we can't use that 20 feet, our neighbors use it all the time.
You can use it. You just can't have a structure there. That's a whole different. We're talking about this 20 feet.
Yeah, I
So
realize.
if you had 20 feet next to you, Susan, would you want somebody to put 4 boats on it?
No.
Yeah, I think it's just, the question, I think, is that, the ordinance doesn't allow somebody to use, an adjacent property owner's ADUA to get in and out of their dock. And, that's really what we have in front of us at the moment, I think. Mark?
Basically, because I was the only one, and like I said before, I don't want to start something where somebody has 15 feet and wants 3 boats, or 10 feet and wants 2 boats.
Hey, Mark, can I ask?
ADUA, because there are lots and lots of easements and small property plots around this lake, and everybody wants to put boats on. Everybody.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a question? Scott Bonin was at the LUC meeting as well, hey?
Yep.
And he voted, did he vote on this as well?
Oh God, Scott, did you vote? I'm sorry, unmute. I'm new to Scott. So
Yeah.
Scott, you can put your vote in. So if he votes yes, then it's a tie.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, Scott, but it seems important that you chime in on this. Okay.
We had discussion.
Yeah.
He's technically muted right now, so I'll ask him to unmute. Maybe he just went off to the little sailor's room for a minute. There he is.
Hey guys,
Scott.
I apologize about that. I had to catch a phone call. I missed what we were talking about here.
I apologize, Scott. When we took the vote and this was your first week, I didn't ask you what your vote was. What was your vote? So
Mark, I'm with you. As far as what they have to work with, they only have 20 feet. It's a tough deal. I guess I'd be okay with 2 boats down there. I'd even be okay with 4 boats if there was no complaints with the neighbors,
Right.
But obviously it sounds like we're way past that point, But I think the variance they're asking to go on, other people's the ADUA, I don't think that's right. You know, I think that dock, if they put 2 small to medium boats right at the end, they could probably get away with it, back straight out. But other than that, I'm usually a fan for trying to make things work, and that's just I put my eyes on it. I went down there. I talked to Luke Michaud. I talked to Ken. I even talked to Tom. They all seem like decent people, but you know, obviously there's some tension there, you know.
Right.
But as far as my thoughts are, I guess I'd be fine. I'm pretty much with you, Mark, but if 2 boats is probably the max that's going to accommodate in my eyes.
Okay, so Scott, and again, sorry to put you on the spot here. We just need something kind of official-ish. So the variance request is for 4 boats, and so what was your vote at the LUC on that variance request?
So I would vote no on the 4 unless the neighbors are okay with it.
Okay. All right, so Mark, it's back to you.
That's pretty much it. Go discussion and vote.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I so move. That we do not make a variance to our ordinances to use other property owners' ADUAs to egress or access a dock.
And Mr. Chair,
Alan?
if I may, just for the good of for the benefit of all.
Please.
This is technically a variance request, and it has nothing to do with boats. It has everything to do with essentially boundaries and rights of the folks and their ADUA. And so if the vote is to deny the variance, it should be very clear that we're denying it because of a want of hardship. And the hardship in this case that hasn't been proved is, at least what I'm hearing, is that not having enough land, not having enough space does not constitute a hardship for purposes of relaxing the ADUA ordinance. Once you pass that, shall we say, denial of variance, we will adopt a resolution at the next meeting, but it's important to put on the record what the reason for that denial is tonight. I'll draft a resolution that will be approved and sent to the applicant next month, but for purposes of legally denying the variance tonight, it's important to make that those findings, Mark.
Okay.
Alan, do you think that Mark needs to adjust his motion? Would you suggest that, or do you think that the current motion that Mark made, nobody has seconded it, by the way,
Well,
do you think the current motion is?
I heard a move to deny the variance.
Yeah.
So I think that if you wanted to supplement your motion, Mark, with essentially the rationale for it, in other words, denying the variance to relax the ADUA ordinance on the basis of not having enough land does not constitute a hardship worthy of relaxing our otherwise rather strict adherence to respecting neighboring ADUAs.
Yes,
Mark, do you accept that?
I accept that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you think, okay, and so the motion is, as everybody has heard, to deny the variance based on a lack of hardship due to limited lakefront or lakeshore generally. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Does that still allow the easement people to negotiate with the 2 neighbors to settle it outside the variance?
I think so. I mean, we've always been, if your neighbors are okay with it, we don't have any.
In denying the variance, all you're really doing is saying that everyone has to adhere to the ordinance regarding respecting each other's ADUA, period.
Yeah, the complaint was that they'll be out of ordinance.
Got it.
Okay, any additional discussion?
Yeah, I went down there on Sunday to check it out, and it is a really tight space.
Very
And the neighbors are quite close. It does look like that second boat that's behind, they could get out through, the AUDA of their neighbor. But if their neighbor really doesn't want them there, I would think that really it shouldn't be a problem for the neighbor, but the neighbor seems to think it is a problem. And I think they've got the ordinances behind that. I think it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, they would be using their AUDA, just a few minutes a year, really, just to get their boats. But the way the ordinances are written, I really don't think that, we can approve getting into somebody else's space if they don't want them there. The fact that they don't want them there, I think, is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We're in a situation. I think this dock association has got 50-some people in it, and of course they all couldn't have boats anyway, even in the most optimistic kind of thing. But when you have neighbors, who are so privileged as to have lake property and not really being, conducive to, a little bit of this and that, is really quite unfortunate. But I think I went back and read the ordinance, and I think we really can't force the neighbors to let them use it, even though I might think they should. So I guess I would agree with the denial.
Any other? Okay, Susie?
What has happened in the past that all of a sudden this situation has changed? Did they have more boats before?
My understanding is at one point they did have 4 boats out there. The water went low. They didn't. And in the meantime, you have 2 new homeowners on either side.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so any other discussion by the board members? Okay, so Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Cam. Cam has been eliminated.
Fortunate.
I will ask him to unmute. In any event, we'll come back to Cam. Scott Costello.
Aye.
And Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
All right. I'm not sure what happened to Cam, but that is certainly enough to pass. Cam, you are back. How do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, that's everyone in, Mr. Chair. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from you, Mark?
Oh, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So we're moving on now to the Lake Education Committee. Scott?
Really nothing to report.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Treasurer's report, Diane?
Treasurer's report for June 2020. Income. So I'd like to make a motion to accept checks 4643 through 4645.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve those checks. Any discussion? Alan, we call the vote, please?
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Cam.
Aye.
Scott C.
Aye.
And Scott O.
Aye.
Checks are approved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the budget for 2021, which, if it is approved, will be sent to the cities on July 1st. I was wondering if anyone had any changes from last month. So I guess I would like to make a motion to accept the budget that was sent to you for 2021, which was in your packet. And do we need it up on the screen? Does everybody get a chance to take a look at it?
I looked at it, but I don't remember all of it.
Diane, you made a motion. I'm gonna second your motion.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion?
We had talked last meeting about reducing some of the cities pay-in with extra money that was coming out of, I'm not sure where. Mike was into that, reducing that for either 2021 or this year. Has that come to any fruition at all, or has that just been dropped?
I had mentioned that unspent budget money from last year could be used to lower the assessment to the cities. That was a suggestion, or just pick a dollar amount. The increase in the budget for 2021 is about almost an 11% increase. And quite often, history, we would like to have 3 to 5% increase. So the difference being about $10,000, that it, I might suggest we take 10,000 out of the general fund, and then assess the balance to the city, which would be, within dollars of what the budget was last year. Just in talking.
Yeah. So then that would potentially have a deficit spend for the year. We also didn't add into 2021 if the Lakeview study is going to happen. And so that's not in the 2021 budget, so we would definitely spend that amount for 2021, which I think the last time was, how much was it last time?
23,500, I think, is what needed. Mm-hmm.
So that would be a large amount of deficit spend for 2021 since it's not in our budget.
Okay, so any other? Okay, so Diane, it's your motion and my second. Are you open to Mike's friendly amendment?
So when would you reduce that, Mike, this year?
Well, for going forward for the budget of 2021. I assume first we approve the budget, and then we decide how we're going to assess it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So
yeah, I mean, if we're sitting on money, I guess I can understand the cities. My understanding, I don't know where exactly the cities are financially, but in general, nationwide, municipalities are suffering because of reduced revenues due to the pandemic. And I think that we will definitely hear about it if we're sitting on a large pile of money, and if we don't spend our entire budget. I think we need to be looking at the budget that we're not spending and finding some way to help ameliorate their situation with that.
That would be for this year.
I think they would, yeah, I'm not sure if it's if the city's shortfall is this year or next year, what the projection is. But basically, if we're not spending all of our budget, there will be a hue and cry to give it back.
So to Mike's point, I guess the motion on the table is to approve the budget.
Right.
And the assessment item is a separate item. And so is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote on the motion, please?
I will, sir. Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Scott C?
Aye.
Scott O?
Aye.
And for the benefit of everyone, Mr. Gans had another engagement, so he dropped off the meeting. So those are all the voting members, Mr. Chair, all aye.
Okay, thank you. So that passes. So this assessment question, maybe we, do we want to address that at a future meeting? Does anybody have any strong feelings about that?
You might consider that in an executive meeting and then bring it to the board.
Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, Diane, anything else from you or any questions for Diane?
So the budget as it is will get sent out to the cities July 1st, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and if the 2019 assessment is going to be changed, we will probably do that, talk through the executive committee and then bring that to the board.
Yeah, because I need to send the bills out for that as soon as I
Right.
can. So I need an answer just for that reason.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, is that we need to send bills out to the city for 2019.
Yeah, for
Or
2020.
2020, what year is it?
2020, yeah. I don't know, we've been in the house for years, I'm not sure.
So is that, when will the board want to make a motion to change the assessment for 2020?
So I think that, I guess my understanding, Diane, was that what we would be discussing is changing the assessment for 2021.
Okay, so 2020 will be left alone.
That was my understanding.
Okay, because there was some discussion.
Right away. I should actually, I'll send those with the budget is when I usually send them. So
Okay,
that would be good to keep it that way. Okay.
okay. Okay, so we're good for 2020.
Right, the budget that we approved last June.
Yeah, okay, great, because there was some talk about changing
Right.
that for this year, so, okay, good, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Diane? Okay, thank you, Diane. Next item on the agenda is the board council report. Alan?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad we were able to do another Zoom meeting with everybody without too many hiccups. My apologies for getting the LUC done a little later. We didn't get that going probably for 8 minutes into it. So my apologies for anyone that was wondering if we weren't going to meet this way. The month has been fairly busy, kind of a weird late but early spring. Had a lot of folks out on the boats last month. We have a new conservation officer from the DNR. Mr. Hanna is down from basically Mille Lacs, and he's joined the local force here, and he's our conservation officer. If I can drag him in before the board, he lives up in Hugo. If I can get him to come introduce himself, I will. He's been doing boat-alongs and enforcement with Eric Brott, which is our sergeant that works the Ramsey side of the lake. And so they've been quite busy. You guys probably heard in the newspaper about the unfortunate boater that managed to land their boat on Talley's dock itself. That resulted in a BWI. There was another gentleman a little earlier last month that ended up getting one as well. And I can just say from talking with Mr. Hanna rather extensively over the last month, getting him acquainted rather with the with the way the lake operates and sort of the jurisdictional issues, because of course we're only one of 2 districts that do it this way in the state. He's quite excited to be here and quite aggressive about policing the water. So expect a lot more enforcement this summer on all of the things that kind of had everyone tied in knots last summer. He'll be out there, and he's actually got an unmarked boat, so he'll be able to be a little bit more stealthy as far as coming up on some of the people that are creating some of the problems that you heard about last year. So I did get a couple of calls regarding the shooting up off of Ramsey or Optimus Beach. Of course, that falls into a category of crime that people like me don't get to handle, but needless to say, it got law enforcement more excited about talking about security generally up in that part of the lake. I know there were a few incidences there last year, but none of them got to this level. So stay tuned. I don't know much more than what you've probably already heard reported in the local news. And yeah, I guess that's it. Busy month, but I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, announcements. Kim?
I just have one. I have a complaint to register with everyone for the water ski course. It had not been moved for 5 weeks when we told Mr. Redpath he had between 2 and 3 weeks. When I contacted him, he apologized greatly, said they had had some family emergencies or something of the kind. And so he was behind on getting them moved and guaranteed me that he would get them moved immediately. I assume he did because I didn't hear anything else. But the other issues being that on the complaint, they wanted to record that this is kind of a constant thing. This happens year after year after year where Mr. Redpath doesn't really move them on time, or when he doesn't move them until there's a complaint and things like that. And they just felt that maybe we should have a little bit more something that we could do about that, or else. And then also they mentioned that there's no kind of signage or markings of any kind on the course or the buoys or anything. So even if somebody wants to issue a complaint or have questions of any kind, they don't even know where to turn to. So that might be something we request of Mr. Redpath in the future. I don't know if that's something that we do or not.
Well, we could take that up when they apply next year,
Maybe news, yeah.
I think. But I mean, one approach would be just to require that they notify you when they move it, and if they don't, if you don't hear from them in a given amount of time, then you start pinging them.
Oh, that might be a good idea. That might be an option then.
When you say pinging, what do you mean, Brian?
Well, just reminding them, hey, you need to move. I haven't heard from you. Did you move them? Like that.
He's honestly really good about when I do contact him, he jumps right on it and takes care of it.
Yeah, I think what this approach would do would just make it a little more of a priority for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to discuss any of that?
Would setting a fine for that be within our boundaries to do that? That if it doesn't happen, there would be a fine?
Well, my hope would be, especially since they've historically been responsive when it's been brought to their attention, my hope would be that we could change the behavior without implementing fines. But maybe we could try it 1 year and see how it goes. But I think, again, this is, that permit to have the ski path has been issued already for 2020. And so I think we should wait until 2021 rather than try to adjust the permit that we've given them now. But Kim, maybe considering that it's that's how we'll likely proceed, I guess. Maybe you can just make a note to yourself to call him or email him every couple of weeks and just ask him, just remind him or just question about it, just to make sure that it keeps getting moved this year.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
This
Scott.
is Scott, my question is, I thought that the state of Minnesota required that any swimming platforms or buoys put out have some kind of identification number or some issue or some way to contact the people responsible for that hazard in the water. Is that not part of the permitting process for the water ski courses, or am I misunderstanding the state rules about those?
Great question, Scott. Considering that Mark's off, Alan, do you have, do you know the response to that?
My simple response would be that the DNR marks all mooring buoys. They're considered more of a permanent structure. I think it's abundantly reasonable, however, I think Susie mentioned it. It should be a requirement when you've got those sort of structures in the lake, just make it part of your policy that, you know, there has to be contact information clearly on whatever structure can support that information. But no, I don't think that the sheriff treats a ski course setup the same way that they do a permanent mooring buoy for the season.
And well, I'm thinking of things also like there's a couple of swimming platforms off the tip of the peninsula, and obviously those must be by the landowner, but those have no identification on them either.
Yeah, and those are more likely probably need a DNR permit because they are intended to be there all summer in one place.
Right, but in the permitting process, if someone has agreed to move something every couple of weeks and disregards that, I think folks need to have a way to be able to identify and where to raise concerns.
I totally agree, especially if they're on a temporal limit in any given space. So like I said, I think you should just make it part of Mr. Redpath's requirements going forward.
And I like that idea personally. I'm just, I just saw the ski course where it was set up last night. And I wonder how they would go about doing that.
Put a flag up. I mean, let them figure it out.
Yeah, right on. Okay, that's good. So Scott O'Connor, are you okay if we, or let me do it this way. Is everybody okay if we push this item out to the next permitting cycle with the understanding that Kim's going to start having regular correspondence with Mr. Redpath regarding this item to ensure that he's moving it as in a timely fashion? Is everybody okay with that approach?
Yes.
Okay, then let's proceed that way. Kim, anything else from you?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, thank you, Kim. So we're on to item 10, adjournment, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved and second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Pam.
Aye.
Scott C.
Aye.
And Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. I will send the recording of this